Hey guys, Divine Calculator here again. I'm going to show you another game of Age of Empires 4. This one's going to be a replay of one of my games. It's one of the best ways to learn how to play RTSs in really any competitive game is to watch your replays and try to figure out what you've done wrong and how to improve on things that you may not be doing semi-efficiently but could get a little better at. So let's get started. I'm playing as the English. Tortugan here is playing as the French, so we'll have to keep that in mind. Let's go. I like to watch without revealing the whole map from my perspective only and try to see um, weaknesses in my play that way. What I can see based on what I've seen in the game so far from my perspective. And then go back and watch replay sometimes with the map revealed, or even watch it from your opponent's perspective. That's a helpful way to do that. So 7 on food, and then 3 on gold. My standard feudal age resource collection ratio. And the rest to wood. You get 200 gold, and then you pull those villagers off if you're playing English onto wood or to food. Still working on things, so if you guys see anything inconsistent in my gameplay, feel free to comment on it. Help me learn. We're here to learn together. Trying to collect all the sheep I can on the map. And then I'd like to go scout my opponent, figure out what he's doing. I believe, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there are 12 sheep on a 1v1 map for each player, basically 12 on each side of the map, 24 in total. So you want to get 12 at least, so you consider that you've broken even, and more than that if possible. Especially if you're playing as the English, you want to stay aggressive and get as many sheep as you can. That way you don't have to waste wood, so to speak, on mills. You want to keep as many resources as possible available to you for you to produce units with to pressure your opponent. And I watched a guy play earlier today against me as the English. I was playing the Rus as usual. He pressured me as the English by building just a few archers, like 10 archers or something. And I noticed he anchored all of his attacks with a lot of towers. He just built towers everywhere. And I didn't appropriately respond to that. I didn't even realize that he was hiding them in the tree lines, the hidden forests. So, I didn't know how to stop it. I figured the best way to get around that is to play as the English, doing that tactic until somebody stops me doing it. That's, I think, one of the best ways to learn is if you're having struggles against a certain strategy or civilization or race, what have you, play as that race and do that strategy and see what stops you. If you may have trouble figuring out an idea on your own, somebody else will help you in that regard. So I've pulled my gold vills to the council hall to produce a longbowman. Actually collected a little bit more gold than needed. I'm sure I could age up a little more efficiently. As I was saying earlier though, I did build a mill a little bit early there. I didn't really need to. I had sheep still waiting for me. But knowing myself, I have a tendency to forget things, so sometimes it's better to think ahead if you know you're going to make a mistake. Always try to play as efficiently as you can, but play within your means and know your weaknesses and play around them. Especially, none of us are pros hardly, you know. Do what helps you. Try to make active use of the scout and try to use your scouts as much as you can to keep vision on your opponent. Remember, Age is a game of reactions, so yeah, react to what your opponent's doing, see what he's doing, and respond to that appropriately. Oh yeah, and seeing as he's playing his French, I assume that he was going to go the School of Cavalry. Well, I think that's a safe assumption, so I decided to build barracks. And start out with a couple of longbowmen, I believe. But you want to make sure you have that barracks. Seeing as he is the French, he's going to have cavalry and they will run down your archers quickly. So don't over-invest into archers into French. It won't go well. You need something to defend yourself with. And here's that strategy I was talking about with the tower, forward tower. You gotta use that network of castles upgrade. I think, what is it, a 25% increase to your attack speed? Something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So you definitely want to have your towers on the field as English anyways, but the strategy I faced earlier basically forced me to spawn to towers everywhere. So I figure I'll try that here too. Getting lots of wood saved up, banked up, and going to build towers all over to harass him and force him to do something, or else he'll lose all map control. And if the thing is about RTS is it's a attention span issue. It's an APM issue usually for most people. For everybody really. You only have so much attention to give to a certain thing. So if you can stretch your opponent thin by doing something that throws them off balance, like building towers in their face, or harassing their wood line, or harassing them in any way, even with a scout, if you can just do that, and throw their game plan off. This guy seems to be already thrown off on his own count, I'm assuming. He's got 500 wood and only 100 gold. Now, one thing I definitely noticed that I do, he already has a tower there in response. He's anticipating the longbowman rush, which is smart of him. He needs to do that. One thing I've noticed I have been doing and I need to work on is I add units to my control group that are not close to where my real group of units is clustered. So you'll get this right here, as you see, those spearmen run in the wrong direction. You should, yeah, and that's inefficient. Shouldn't be happening. But and there's that knight you can see. But you want to make sure you keep your units rallied appropriately together. So that's definitely something that I can improve on in this replay, as you can see. But I do have the spears coming. Built them preemptively for those knights, those royal knights. I want to get those spearmen on that knight as quick as possible and kite with those archers. Now, I do have a large wood bank, and I'm dropping that blacksmith. You always want to spend your resources, keep your resources low. That's the #1 rule of RTSs in general. 140 gold. I think I have, yeah, just 1 on gold. That's one thing you probably should do, just keep 1 or 2 vills on gold if you're not all-inning really hard with just unupgraded spearmen and archers. Because you may need that tech later, such as your siege, was it siege engineering? Allow you to build ramps or upgrades for your melee or ranged. Make use of that. It takes a little while, but you've got plenty of time as you pressure your opponent, throwing him off kilter. It looks like he's not gathering any gold at all, seeing the resources tab there. Whereas we are getting... Okay, he is just a little bit. Just harass your opponent, go in and out of his base. So let's keep the spearman just out of sight, hopefully, of his buildings, and then rush in. Looks like he's starting to trade, which is seems greedy of him this early in a 1v1. Using a knight there. Oh, we got a knight there. That's a good trade for us, I think. Gotta watch the path. Let's see, that's another issue. I've rallied those. I'd placed those from the rally point into my control group, and I've pathed them. I shouldn't even place them in the control group, or place them into a different control group rather, before doing that. And my archer, my scout gets destroyed there. Not good. I think I've plenty on food at this point though. So yeah, As we all know, anybody who plays RTS, it is hard to manage your economy, at least for me, while you're microing your troops or building your economy or building your production facilities and troops in general. But rule number one, spend those resources. You will be a better player than your opponent if you can just keep your resources spent. And the way you should probably approach the game, the way I think, is look at it as a path of self-improvement. So you may lose some games in some really dumb ways. That's just going to happen. But if you stay positive about it and you realize your mistakes by watching replays, then you'll improve over time and you'll win more games and you'll win versus those stupid all-ins or cheeses. And that's the goal, to get better at the game overall. It's not just to win with stupid strategies, it's to get better. I mean, it's okay to win with stupid strategies, don't get me wrong there. There's nothing wrong with that, being a cheese player or an all-in player or anything. But if you really want to get it good, you gotta practice. You gotta have a good mindset, and you gotta be willing to lose games. That's not to say you can't get angry. Everybody gets angry these games sometimes. Everybody rages a little bit, gets a little salty, myself included. But try not to let it affect you in the moment. And if you do get angry, channel that into good energy. Channel that into energy of self-improvement. Get angry and say, hey, I can't stand that I lost that way. I'm going to just learn how to absolutely destroy my opponent if he does that again. And improve on that, work on that. And you'll get there. And we're picking off villagers here and there. So that's good. We're just pressuring our opponent, forcing idle time, making him become less efficient. And he's building lots of archers in response to our longbowman, but as long as we kite, we'll be okay. We have our towers to stand under to kite. We have his, you notice how he's trading? We have some towers going up at his market where he is trying to trade. So we're going to be able to pressure even further. If your opponent tries to trade, one thing I've learned, especially if it's early, you have to punish it. If you fail to punish an opponent who's trading, if you just let it happen, he will get ahead of you over time. That trader unit is not efficient or a good unit if it doesn't get any value, if it doesn't bring any gold back. But if it does begin to bring gold back, then it will continuously gain value at a rate that you cannot keep up with if you let it happen. So you have to force the issue, you have to punish your opponent for playing greedy. And likewise, if you play greedy, you must do it smartly. There's a time and place for it. You can play greedy if you notice that your opponent is playing greedy. Play more greedy than him. Or punish that with aggression. But you have to know what's going on. You have to scout in order to do these things. Respond to it that way. And we know our opponent is uncomfortable. Like, that's what we're doing to this opponent. We are making him feel uncomfortable. We're putting him in a very pressured spot. We're picking up things here and there. He wants to charge our archers with his knights. We're not going to let it happen easily. Of course, his knights have chivalry, so they'll heal back soon, but still. But look, we're taking out his traders with our towers. He's not even taking them out. He's probably being harassed with tower spam alerts due to constantly being attacked by arrows from the towers. So, yeah. Now, that's another thing. You see my horsemen here I'm rallying. Always try to attack from two fronts if possible. If you can, like I was talking earlier, divide your opponent's attention span up even further, you can get much more damage done than if you had just attacked on one front. Even if you take like one knight in the castle age, like as a battle is going on, if you can divide that knight up into a harass control group, for me that is usually control group 4, then you will gain lots more value out of that fight, simply because you're backstabbing your opponent and he doesn't realize it because he's in the middle of a big fight, unless he has a very good map awareness or just happens to look in the right area at the right time. If you can try to incorporate that in your gameplay, then you'll get a lot more accomplished. Here we're going to try to push with rams. It's a very slow push from me. I probably could have hit with rams much earlier. I am not the greatest English player. I'm not the greatest aggressive player, but I feel like now's a good time to push. We've thrown him off enough. He's got these towers up. He's invested his wood into towers, so I'm going, and I have invested mine in mine. Now I'm going to take him down if I can. Just pressure my opponent. Now the idea for a ram push like this is to bring your longbowman up with your archers and pick off his villagers as they try to burn down your rams. This is something I failed to do to a great extent here, but that's the idea. Make him respond to the rams with his villagers, punish the villagers with your units. My attention span is not great here though, but this is the backstab I'm talking about. I lose rams because of that. My APM is not high enough. I could have pulled back here faster than I did, but I did not realize how far my units were. I lack the awareness. But that's something we can improve on for the next game. We can do better than this. But we're getting value out of this fight though. We are getting value out of this, and that's what you want. Now, we'll just come up and punish them. Now they're out of position. Punish them more. That's several villagers killed. We killed all of his villagers on his gold, so that's even better. He's not trading because his traders are killed from the arrows. We are in a great spot, and you can do two things when you are in a great spot like this. You can either double down on your aggression and just straight out kill him if you think. But if you want to play it safer and you're confident in your macro, just play greedy. You don't even need to build any more units. Just play greedy. He's in the bad spot. He has to respond to you by dealing damage to you. Defend your base the best you can. Build walls. Cover your home base, because think of how he can win from his perspective at this point in the game. He's behind in villagers, and you know he is, because he has done 0 damage to you. So how can you defend yourself from what he would do to come back? He could go double TC, maybe. That would be one way to get more villagers. Or he could harass your workers as I am him. So wall at home, or just continue to be more aggressive and straight up go for the kill. Which, as you can see, I'm not doing a good job of that. As I say that, I could have already walled more. I've got plenty of wood in the bank. I probably should be. He has Royal Knights. He's just not harassing with them. He could have them at my home, and I've got nothing at home defending. That's one thing to keep in mind. When somebody's being very aggressive and they've got your troops in your face, their troops in your face rather, then that means they probably don't have anything at home, and you can get some major damage on it if you backstab it. Just a couple units is all it takes. And look here, I'm going to go to Castle Age, so I've banked up my resources there. He has very few resources at home.
Fair enough.
You know, I'm not quite sure what this guy was going to do with that little wall on the side, on the west corner of the map. It seems like an odd way to wall. Unless he was going to build a market in there. Maybe he has one. He's trading with there. Regardless, it doesn't matter. We're very far ahead. Just harassing him a little, that's all it takes. Even if you are at a disadvantage, if you can just keep him distracted, you can just run his army around in circles sometimes. If your opponent is not well disciplined, they may just try to punish your army or a small harassment group rather than do what it takes to come back and harass your villagers. And as the game goes on, his villagers become more and more exposed. The wood lines become smaller. We've got the map to ourselves. What does he have? Nothing. He can't get out of his base. One thing I need to also work on that I've noticed is my upgrades. I'm not quite sure exactly when you should go for upgrades, but I do know that I don't go for them enough. I tend to get more units rather than more upgrades, and I know my units would be more effective with them. Usually I get them in the late game, but usually I forget them until Castle Age. Maybe 1 feudal, then like 3 in Castle. But yeah, this man's got a lot of idle time going on. Poor Tortugan. I feel his pain. I have been destroyed by many English rushes. It is so hard to defend. It is disproportionately difficult to defend it than to attack with it. But I think that's true of any RTS. It just takes a lot more effort and awareness to defend an attack or a multi-pronged attack than it is to set it up. You just tell, you know, you could not even use a control group. You can tell your units to attack in 3 different places at once and do a lot more damage usually than if you had tried to defend in 3 different points at once. Looks like he's trying to take down our towers with rams, which I think that is the correct response. I believe that is the correct response from his perspective. If he's not going to come and attack me at my base with harassment, then he has to use rams to push out. I believe that is the correct thing for him to do. But he has decided to do it so late, and after I've done so much damage to him, that I think this game is over at this point. Obviously, I know the outcome, but still, from an outsider, anybody would see that I've done a disproportionate amount of damage. And there we have it. There's the GG. He gets frustrated. He's at a disadvantage. He knows he can't come back from, probably. And he didn't do what he needed to do to harass me to death, basically. Alright, guys. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll try to keep these coming more often. I like watching my replays. Take care, and peace.